You've been fishing the Salmon River when we talked off air, I think, since the 80s. And you've seen a tremendous amount of changes on the Salmon River, both in structure and in regulations. Let's start with regulations here because really, I think there's been, as we've known, wholesale changes with some of the regulations on the river.
Back in the 80s, it was legal snagging, and around 93, that got outlawed. And then, of course, it took time because there's such a culture for that. It took a while for people to either leave the fisheries, for lack of a better term, or realize that that it was time to have a change in how they approached the whole resource. And so you had this evolution in fishermen that kind of started to change with that. And of course, in between all that, we had to adjust a few regulations to help with enforcement and help encourage that cultural change. And as a result, you see just a tremendous change in it. Everybody just extracted a large amount of fish, where now we're seeing a lot more catch and release, a lot more understanding natural reproduction, understanding that those salmon dying in the river is a positive. The fact that now we allow these salmon to die in the river, there's been a huge environmental change in the river to the positive. That river was a sterile ditch back in the 80s and 90s, and now all of a sudden it's just this blooming biomass of aquatic life and reproduction, and it's a very productive river now.
When you see that evolution as a guide, a conservationist, it's got to make you happy because the river continues to self-sustain.
I always say give nature half a chance and get out of her way. And here's something that was just lifeless, and we've actually watched insect hatches develop that we never saw before. The Chinook reproduction, a young in the year for just Chinooks that smolt out is around 20 million a year, which is just astounding. There's rivers out west that would love to have that reproduction.
That is incredible.